Welcome into the Bettor Baseball Podcast, WinDailySports.com. Going to keep this version a little short and sweet on a happy Monday. Just me solo here, Jon Jansen. Follow me at JJansen34 on Twitter.com, where you can check me out. But check out all the articles. See what I'm going to do here today. Basically, all the information that I'm getting can be found at WinDailySports.com. DFS picks and pivots from my guy, Brian. Also, Adam, the starting rotation articles, one of the best in the business. And I'm going to be using a lot of that to make some of the picks today, especially maybe an underdog pick that I've been going back and forth on. But by the time this ends, I may end up taking this bet. But we're going to be a little bit of focus here because we do have some games that I just immediately like right away. And you see a couple of run lines in there. Look, I don't do this very often. I don't like to do it often. I hate run lines. I usually just stick with money lines. But I see a good opportunity here. And at least for one of them, I'm going to mainly stick with. The other one I might boot out because I don't feel as strong about it. And if I'm betting a run line, I want to feel pretty strong about it. But I think the first one I want to go to is the Atlanta Braves. And I know probably the first thing is the Atlanta Braves haven't been good. They lost their last two games. Basically, the doubleheader yesterday was not too kind of the Braves. They didn't score a run in either game. I think only had one hit throughout the two games. Madison Bumgarner, of course, which everybody's debating. The 7-inning no-hitter, which whether or not that counts, that is up to you. To me, hey, just put the 7-inning no-hitter on it, and that's okay to say. But I think I could say with pretty much certainty here that this is a really good bounce-back spot, I think, for the Atlanta Braves. If you look at the matchup itself, they hit very well against right-handed pitching. They're going up against Zach Davies. Zach Davies is not a good right-handed pitcher, so I like the matchup there. Charlie Morton's been doing pretty good, has an ERA just under 4. Now, is he a great pitcher? No, and I'm not placing this bet because of that. But the Chicago Cubs are an awful team on the road. Now, they've only played, I think, 6 games on the road. So they've mainly played 2 home stands, and this is their second road trip that they're going to take this season. So not too large of a sample size, only 6 games on the road, 2-4. So it's not a entirely large sample size. And at that time, they weren't really hitting that well. So whether or not you want to take that, that's up to you. But so far, using sort of the home road splits has worked for me a little bit. And I think with the Braves, how well they have been at home. Now you take away, obviously, the 2 games yesterday against the Arizona Diamondbacks. But right-handed pitching matchup that works in their favor. They're at home, which they have played better at primarily. I just think this is a spot where they've only had 1 hit all day yesterday through 14 innings. I think they bounce back here, have a big day offensively, and I think Charlie Morton's good enough to keep this game pretty much low scoring on the other side of things against the Cubs. So I have a score of around 6-2, 5-2 in this one. I think the Braves do end up putting up a lot of runs here. And look, maybe if we do go down to the total runs, we could take the over 4.5. That's a good spot here for that, -105. But I think I want to take the plus money. And this seems like to me. Now, I don't do this often. I don't do bounce back spots often, or I don't bet a narrative because I think that the Braves are going to bounce back from a doubleheader that wasn't great. But I think the spot allows for it. And enough is telling me that while this could be a bounce back spot, also just don't expect the Braves at home and against right-handed pitching for their lineup to be down for long. I expect them to play very well in this game, so I'll take the run line. Now, this other one, as you can see, a little bit riskier, and this is no disrespect to Trevor Rogers. I think I'm just respecting Corbin Burnes in his game a lot more. Now, the last 2 games, he's actually been getting run support. It's been kind of split between the 4 starts of Corbin Burnes. Now, I will say this. You're taking the strikeout prop for both Trevor Rogers in this game and Corbin Burnes. I expect this to be low scoring, but I have seen the Brewers give Corbin Burnes more run support the last 2 games. 6 runs in the last start, 7 runs in the start before that. Now, the first 2, they didn't get any for him. I think 1 run against St. Louis and then none against Minnesota. So the run support has been kind of hit or miss. It's been a tale of 2 kind of different games in those 4 starts. But I like it enough to where Corbin Burnes should absolutely mow down this Marlins lineup. I expect he's been 6 innings. He went 6 1/3 in a start, but it's mostly been 6 innings. There is a chance here, I think, he can maybe work through this a little quickly. The strikeouts, they're obviously going to be up. The Marlins whiff a lot against right-handed pitching, so I expect the strikeouts to be up. So that may mean that he only goes 6 innings, but I expect here maybe he does go in the 7th inning, but he will go 6 or 7. Strikeouts will rack up, and I don't expect him to allow a run at all in this game. He should have a very easy time through this Marlins lineup. And so with the Brewers being a little bit better against left-handed hitting, which could be a little bit misleading, as highlighted in the MLB DFS Picks and Pivots article from Brian, WinDailySports.com is where you can check that out. It could be a little bit misleading, but it's enough for me to take it on the run line. This could be a 3-1, 4-run game, but the Brewers have been giving run support. They've been hitting a lot better. Heck, they're 13-8. I want to give a little bit of credit to that. They're 13-8, primarily through their starting pitching. But with Corbin Burnes on the mound, this bet is 500 so far, 2-2, but it's 2-0 in the last 2 starts. I think the run line here is a little bit of a good play. I would like to just take money line, but I think now with not only the matchup, but the pricing, you're getting a little bit of a now premium price that you have to pay for Corbin Burnes. So you're not really going to do that anymore. But he should have such a great start that I expect them to have a 2-run lead in this game very early on and keep it. And so I expect them to cover in this one, the run line, 1.5 at plus 135. I was thinking if you just want to take Corbin Burnes here and maybe just bet on the 1-0, 2-0 start, you may be able to do that. Lead after is not a bad bet. I know Jason Mizrahi likes this. Lead after plus 125, minus 112, but I'm not sure if the Brewers can put up runs. I think they eventually will, but I don't know how early it's going to happen and when it will happen, because I do want to give respect as well. This is not any disrespect to Trevor Rogers. Want to respect his game, but I think eventually the Brewers are going to put up enough runs. And if you look at the game log for Trevor Rogers, he went 7 innings in his last start, 5 innings before that against Atlanta, and then also the Mets, 6 innings, 4 innings. So he's one who can maybe be a little bit of a shorter start than Corbin Burnes. And so I just want to give the matchup advantage, I think, here to the Milwaukee Brewers. And I think the run line, it's not the safest play, but I think it's worth a shot, knowing the return and also just the run support's been there for Corbin Burnes. And I think it's not a bad place to maybe test that out as well. All right, the next one we're going to, you see the under 4.5 first 5 innings for the Cardinals and the Phillies. The Phillies don't hit well on the road, and you're kind of seeing that. They have not hit well. In Colorado, they did in a game, but that's about it. I think Wainwright should do pretty well, honestly, against the Phillies. So I think this game's low scoring. I might go the under 8 at minus 113. The only thing I'm worried about is with the Phillies and their bullpen. It's not good. It's not healthy. They now have National League worst ERA in bullpen. It's over 5, their ERA. They're not healthy. They don't have their 2 best, I think, relievers in the bullpen, and Archie Bradley and Jose Alvarado out. I just don't. We're now back to not trusting, I think, the Phillies bullpen. And so if we're not back to that, that means we're not back to a total runs. But I think Zach Wheeler, he's not been sharp in his last few starts. He's had a lot of control issues, and that's really hampered him his past 2 starts. But even though he's having those problems, I think eventually that is going to be wiped away soon. Now, you can't take the Phillies on the money line here. They have lost their last 3 starts with Zach Wheeler on the mound. They're on the road, so they're not going to give him much run support to begin with. But I think this is a good spot where I think Wheeler can do very well against that Cardinals lineup. And I want to go under here, the 4.5 at minus 137. The only thing that you would worry about really is if Zach Wheeler gets rocked, but that's about it. I think the Phillies will kind of be shut down a little bit by Adam Wainwright, especially in the first 5 innings. I want to go first 5 under 4.5, kind of taking that Phillies lineup into account and how bad they've been on the road and just how much I don't really trust the Cardinals lineup either. And give me the fact that Wheeler, I think will eventually get his stuff together. And Adam Wainwright's not a great matchup for the Phillies. I think I'm going to take that one as well. So that's our next bet. Now, the first 5 under for the Reds and Dodgers, I'm going to keep it there. It's the one play that I do like in this game. Money line's a little bit weird in this one because the money line is shot way up. And look, with the Dodgers, I think the last time we kind of picked on them in this series or coming off of the Padres series, we took the money line on a team and ended up winning that bet. I think it was the Seattle Mariners too. I think the Reds have a shot in this game, plus 165. If you're a little worried about that, Julio Urias has been very good. The first 5 under is not a bad play for me. I think Tyler Mahle is going to do a good job against the Dodgers. Even though Dodgers hit right-handed pitching very well, I do think just coming off of that series, they may be a little slow to start in this game. So the first 5 under 3.5 might be the play for me, but I would not be upset or think it's a bad play to maybe take the Reds here on the money line against the Dodgers. Again, I think the coming off of the Padres series and using that to maybe take them and think that the Dodgers come out a little bit slow in this game. Their bats maybe are a little bit quiet in this one. I might take the under 3.5. So I'm definitely looking at maybe that money line, but the first 5 under, that has been kind of staring at me. And now at even money, it wasn't even money at first. It was, I think, a little bit of juice on it, but even money, I think it might be worth a play there. But there is one over. We're going with the Oakland Athletics over. Now, this was highlighted a bit in both articles, I think, the starting rotation article from Adam and also picks and pivots from our guy Brian, WinDailySports.com. You check that out. Also, projection models, optimizers, all of it, WinDailySports.com. And hey, join the Discord chat as well, where they'll be messing with lineups, giving bets, all of that over WinDailySports.com. But I think I'm going to go over on the Athletics because of what I saw. Rich Hill throws a lot of curveballs. 45% of the time he throws those curveballs, and Oakland is 13th against them so far this season. So a very good job by those guys picking that out. And Oakland, I don't know what to think now after coming off of a winning streak and losing their last game, but I kind of want to push that aside here. Don't think too hard about it and think that Rich Hill, who has an ERA of over 8 right now, he's not been good this season, does not have great stuff, really relying on his one decent pitch in the curveball, a little bit too much at 45%. And the fact that Oakland can hit it well means that this may be a matchup where Oakland ends up going over the 4.5, which is at plus 107. That team total has been, it's been alternating between days. So if you look at the Athletics game log and their schedule, the last game, obviously they didn't go over. They only had 1 run, but they had 7 runs the game before that, then only 3 runs, and then 13, then 1. It's been kind of alternating. So it's not like this Oakland Athletics offense has been hot, especially like it was the beginning of that streak where they were scoring 7, 8, and 9 runs primarily for about 4 or 5 games there. Now it's been alternating as of late. So if you want to go through that kind of perspective, yeah, maybe they go over. But I think it's just the matchup here is really good for them to hit and kind of bounce back from that loss against the Orioles last night, especially against John Means, who was very good, which, by the way, I think that says a lot more about Means than I think it does the Oakland Athletics. I think they get back on track at the win, but I think it's better to just go the total runs route, the over 4.5. They should hit Rich Hill pretty much. And I think at DFS, I think Brian and Adam both, again, highlighted this, but because of those numbers and that they have a potential here to hit Rich Hill, you can maybe stack the Oakland Athletics a lot in your DFS lineups as well. So those are our bets for today here on the Bettor Baseball Podcast. Again, with the Reds, it's just if you want to get a little bit more plus money, instead of the under 3.5 for the first 5 in that Dodgers-Reds game, how about we maybe just go? And a lot of that under 3.5 too is because the Reds don't hit well away from home. So it's a little bit of Julio Urias, I think, should do a pretty easy job against the Reds as well. This could end up being a 1-0, 2-0 game maybe. But I I think the Reds might be a shot on the money line here as well, plus 165. But if you want to just go with a little bit of safer one, maybe first 5 under 3.5 at even money is good. Brewers on the run line, we're going to try it out. Now it's already gone down from plus 135 to plus 125. So that means the Brewers, they're getting bet on a little bit here today. But I do like it with Corbin Burns. They have covered in his last 2 starts that run line. And I think it's worth taking a chance with the run support that's been there. Braves, a little bit of a bounce back spot. Don't like doing narratives way too much. But here it kind of makes sense with the matchup, the team they're facing. The lineup's not very good for the Chicago Cubs. They've been better, but on the road, and at least in their last road trip, we're not very good. And so with the Braves, the way they hit it home, good bounce back spot against a pitcher they should hit. I think the run line is definitely in play here for the Braves. We're going under in the first 5 for the Phillies and Cardinals. I don't trust either lineup, and I think the pitching matchup is good enough to go under that 4.5, even juiced up a little bit, minus 135. And the Athletics, as we mentioned. So a little bit of a short game here. And what do you think of the total game over in the Oakland game? Question coming from my guy, Ivan. Yeah, that one, I think as well, you could maybe go over because Sean Manaea certainly isn't very good. And hey, you know what? It's not a bad play, I would say, because if I'm going with the team total over for the Athletics, it obviously means that this number is very close to being covered anyway. So we could see maybe the Tampa Bay Rays here at home, maybe get something in on Sean Manaea. And I would have to look a little bit because I was hyper-focused on the Oakland Athletics in this game. So I haven't looked too much into the Rays side of things. But maybe if we look through and see something with the Rays, and look, Sean Manaea has been better in ERA, a little just over 3. So he's been good, and he's not a pitcher that I maybe would target too much in this game. And I know the Rays lineup hasn't been overly spectacular, but they're around middle of the pack when it comes to hitting left-handed pitching I'm seeing so far. And if we check the home road splits, which I've been doing a lot lately, I don't know if I'm doing it too much, but I just know from what I've seen early on this season that those home road splits have actually kind of mattered a little bit. So does it apply to Tampa Bay? And so far, I'd say no, they're in the bottom portion of the league at home when it comes to hitting. But I would say maybe with the over to be safer, and I think you're getting a little bit more money as well, I'd probably just stick with the Athletics over 4.5. I don't know if the Rays cooperate there, but this is a spot I think the Rays could possibly end up getting a few runs on Manaea. Is it enough to cover the over 8.5? I'm not sure yet, and I don't know if I'd go there. I just stick with the Athletic side of things because this matchup, I think, is better suited for them. You know, I don't think this is a great matchup for the Rays. They're middle of the pack against left-handed pitching. They don't have a great starter on the mound in Rich Hill. So I'm leaning more on just staying on the Oakland side of things. But if you want to go that over 8.5, you're just looking for a total game. I don't think it's necessarily a bad play, especially because it's a little bit reduced juice here, minus 106, while the under 8.5, minus 114. I don't necessarily like that at all. So the over is in play, but I'd rather just stick on the Oakland side of things. That's where I think the advantage really is, just with their lineup against Rich Hill. But that's it for the Bettor Baseball Podcast. Check it out, windailysports.com. We'll have the replay here before the games get started. Listen in. Maybe you want to tail one of these bets, or you have one of these bets on the board and you want to understand it a little bit more. And look, already the under first 5 for the Phillies and Cardinals, a little bit more juice on it. And it's getting to the point where I may just stay away from that. So be sure to just check out what the pricing is. Obviously, if it goes up anymore, minus 150, or, even at the minus 143 now, I may actually stay away from that one if the price is going to continue to be juiced up a little bit more. But that's it for the Bettor Baseball Podcast. Check out DFS picks and pivots. Also, aces and bases if you're setting a lineup on FanDuel, windailysports.com, as we can check out all of that. We'll be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m., windailysports.com.